Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's get into Tesla. Let's talk about the market really. Let's figure out what is happening in this market as well. And well, essentially what we can expect moving forward. So with that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. The link is down below in the description of the video. For just $3 a month, you can access all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, technical analysis, options flow, etc. on Tesla, and sometimes other stocks. Like for instance, today I asked my members if they wanted to see me talk about NVIDIA because NVIDIA was catching my eye. And so I did. People seem to like that. And yeah, again, if you're interested, definitely check it out. Just $3 a month. Link is below. It is a YouTube membership, so we definitely would love to have you there. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day up about 2% on the day, closing at pretty much $220 per share, which compared to the market is actually a pretty respectable outperformance. The market, for instance, QQQ down another 1.1%, definitely looking pretty ugly as it approaches the potential first support level right around this level that it is pretty much at right now, 458-ish, right? 458, 455, like mid 450s, I would say roughly, honestly, right? But with that being said, honestly, I really wouldn't be surprised if QQQ does drop a little bit more closer to like 450 to 445. Like that really would not shock me. And you know, that could be a bit of an issue for the market and Tesla as a whole, but let's talk about it. So thankfully, things are actually pretty simple here, right? The setup here is, I think, at least fairly simple. So let's talk about what to expect for the next, potentially tomorrow or early next week, depending on when it actually happens. I want to talk about that first. So today we had a decent day, right? Decent day, definitely some profit taking towards the end, but nonetheless a decent day. Now, moving forward, the way you want to look at it is this. Well, simply today we pretty much printed an inside day candle, right? Where today's trading range pretty much was almost to perfection within the trading range of yesterday's trading range or yesterday's daily candle, right? Maybe we ever so slightly went above, but like, I don't know, do we even go above? Like I think we, but like a couple cents went above. It pretty much was an inside day, right? The thing that's good about inside days is that it makes the process a little bit easier. Why? Well, all you have to do now is simply take roughly the low of today's candle, right? So the price that we traded at the low of today, which is pretty much around 216, we'll say ish, right? 216, 215. If you want to be extra safe, you can even take the low of yesterday's candle, right? So pretty much between 215 to 216, really, to make it simple. And you take the high of today and well, technically yesterday, because it was pretty much the same high, which is pretty much sitting around about 225, 226, somewhere around that general vicinity, right? And then what you do is, well, now you pretty much wait. You wait for the price action to either breach that high that I just mentioned or breach that low that I just mentioned. Whenever one of these is breached, could be as early as tomorrow. If you print an inside day tomorrow, then you use those levels instead, ideally. But essentially, once one of those levels is breached that I just mentioned, 225, 226, or about 216, 215, right? You move in that direction, probably for the next few sessions. For instance, if we break above, let's say, this 225, 226 range, there's a decent chance, in my opinion, that we come up to the top of this bull flag once again and retest it at least, right? And probably come back up to retest this old resistance, old support, now turned resistance probably, right? Around the mid 230s. Let's just say, we'll say 235 to make it simple. I think there's a good chance that happens if we break above pretty much today's high tomorrow, let's say, or Monday or whatever. That's something like that would happen. On the flip side, though, if we break below today's low, so about 115, 116, I do believe that, we're going to make our way lower. And at the very least, we'll come back down to about 210, probably though closer to, in my opinion, 205. That'll be probably my main levels. Now, I want to make it pretty obvious, or not obvious, but make it very clear. We did technically actually test that support level today or this morning pre-market, right? We pretty much went right to that 210, 211-ish support range that I had this line on, and we bounced off of it. GDP numbers came out. Obviously, the market bounced and enjoyed those numbers. And that's a profit taking was taken. So, keep that in mind. But again, that's the simplest way, without overcomplicating, without making this a difficult concept to understand. Just look at those levels and let one of those levels get breached. Now, the volume today was definitely a little bit on the lower end. So we did have a nice bounce, but, happening on pretty low volume, which is, a little bit concerning, right? It's a little bit eyebrow raising. Some people can also argue the fact that, well, maybe we're just setting up a little bit of a smaller version of this bear flag potentially, right? So you can argue the fact that, it looks something like this. We pretty much came down here. Now we're setting up this little bear flag and then we move down even lower. That is a possibility before we come down and, truly touch this bottom of this bull flag once again on the daily and actually have a daily candle touch this, which again, if that were to happen, if I were to extend this a little bit further out, right? Something like, let's say like this, for instance, right? If I extend this out a little bit as well, roughly, right? Something like this, of course, it's not perfect, but close enough, right? Something like this. I'll go ahead and put it like this. That would pretty much bring us like I said, about to that 205 level. Could be as early as tomorrow, right? That is a very real possibility that it is as early as tomorrow, right? Or Monday. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those days. We have data coming out. I think PPI, if I'm not mistaken. We have some data coming out tomorrow. I completely forgot. Might be PCE actually, right? Coming out tomorrow. Could be the catalyst that brings it down. But I do believe that the next leg lower, if it does happen in the market, if it does happen in QQQ, and if we do ultimately flush one more time pretty aggressively, I do personally believe that that should be that last leg down, at least for now. And we should get a relief rally to finally start beginning, which again, same thing will apply to Tesla. If we come back down to about this 205 level, I do believe that that would happen. Let's take a look at a few more things. On the daily chart, MACD is obviously still flip bearish, still making lower lows, not ideal. RSI neutral. RSI is probably I don't really use RSI that much, I'll be honest. The only thing I use RSI for is overbought, oversold, and divergences. At the moment, nothing really too crazy. We are arguably setting up we're not yet actually. We're getting close to setting up, if we do come to 205, potentially a hidden bullish divergence, where essentially that means is, if the stock makes, if the RSI makes lower lows, but the stock is making higher lows, that's a hidden bullish divergence. For instance, if you look at it back all the way over here on, June 11th, right? The RSI reading was sitting at, about, we'll say 45 roughly, right? And this was back when Tesla was trading at about 170, right? Now here we're sitting at obviously at about, 220 roughly, we'll say, right? And the RSI is sitting very close to that level, just slightly above 45, right? We'll just say somewhere around, 46-ish, give or take. Now, if we do come lower, if we do come to 205 and the RSI does drop below 45, let's say it drops to somewhere around 40 as an example, right? Now, officially, the RSI has made a lower low, but of course, we have not made a lower low on the actual chart, the actual lines, the stock itself, right? So I guess we can take a look at maybe this right here. Here's an example. You can see here, right? As the RSI, in this case, the oscillator or whatever, is making lower lows, the stock itself is making higher lows, hidden bullish divergence. Again, same idea. I'll draw it out right here just so you can get a better idea. Just as an example, it could look, I'll use these lines. So I don't touch, draw like some random squiggly lines. It could look something like this as we make lower lows on the RSI here in this case, right? But here instead, it'll look something like this as you make higher lows. Just an example of what it can look like. So be on the watch for that. If we do flush down to 205, I think that's a pretty decent opportunity. Not financial advice, just my opinion. Pretty decent opportunity, and I think that hidden bullish divergence can come in. Next, we have, of course, probably my favorite. Honestly, of all of these four, I've been really liking this the stochastic, right? The stochastic moving indicator, phenomenal. I really like it. I think it's just been so good. Honestly, it's been so damn good for like many stocks that I follow. It's been phenomenal at dictating momentum, essentially, right? And in this case, it's still obviously to the downside. We haven't crossed bullish yet. The green has not crossed the red. We are entering oversold territories briefly here, so that's a good sign that maybe we'll start looking for potential bottoming out pretty soon. Doesn't mean it has to be right here right now, and I actually don't think it might be just yet, but keep a look on this, right? I definitely recommend adding this to your charts. Keep a look on this, and the second this starts potentially flipping bullish, that could be a damn good sign that the bottoming seems to be damn close, and we should be starting to look to base and potentially get at least a temporary reversal, if not an actual reversal as well. An actual reversal to me would be an actual breakout of this bull flag, right? Once we get a breakout of this bull flag, that's when I think the actual reversal will begin. That's pretty much the way I look at it. Did I mess up this thing somehow? I don't know if I did. I'm gonna hold on. Let me quickly fix this. Kind of messed up my chart a little bit. It's always better when the lines are perpendicular. There we go, perfect. Right. Anyway, so that's kind of the way I look at that. Right. That's like the simplest way to look at it, really. And again, the 1 hour kind of shows a better example. I have a lot of lines down here, but that's because these two lines right here are temporary until we break this range. But again, you can look at this as a bear flag. You can look at this range as just, again, once we break one of these two levels on this range over here that I mentioned earlier in the video, that's probably where we will continue up, right? Or down, depending on the direction. So again, above 225, 226, probably 235 is next. Below 215, 216, most likely 205-ish is next. Pretty similar swing in both directions. Now, with that being said, though, on the 1 hour time frame, our MACD has flipped bullish. I don't really care too much about the MACD flipping bullish on the 1 hour time frame personally. It flips up and down like all the time. I really don't care that much. What I do care about, as usual, is the stochastic. Stochastic is bullish, though. Stochastic is bullish, so we'll see if that ends up being a false flag or not. So it's looking pretty good. The momentum is not looking too bad. I do believe that, if we get a flush tomorrow, that should be an opportunity personally, right? You have the BX trend starting to make lower highs over here. So it's, showing a bit of momentum loss. But again, my favorite one, stochastic, still showing bullish crossover, still bullish in general. So we'll see how it plays out tomorrow with the data and how the market reacts to it. I did take some profit today. from the shares that I bought yesterday as a bit of a, de-risk, if you will, because again, I'd rather just wait for one of these levels to break and then just re-enter essentially, you know what I mean? So that's just the way I look at it, because if we break to the downside, I'll buy lower. If we start breaking to the upside here, I'll just re-enter a couple dollars higher than I sold. No problem with me, especially when you take that much risk off the table. I think it's very well worth it, right? Very good to have good risk management in my opinion. But ultimately, the way I look at it overall is pretty simple, right? We're still in this bull flag. We haven't really truly had that fourth touch point. I still personally want to see it. I still want to see a flush at 205, hopefully as early as tomorrow. I really want to get it, because the longer it takes, the lower the target will be on this bull flag to get that fourth touch point. So I want to have it earlier than later. So ideally we get a flush tomorrow. That's my kind of hope right now. We get a flush tomorrow, move to about 205. And I think that should be, honestly, I think there's a good chance that could be it. And then we start to reverse from there. We start to base, and I think we move ultimately higher from there. That's what I'll be looking for personally. Now, what else did I talk about? Weekly. Let's take a look at the weekly chart here really quickly. Right? So remember how I mentioned before earnings happen and everything like that? I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if we end up getting a massive red candle below this trend line, and then potentially we end up still closing the week back above it. Well, we have 1 day left for that. So maybe we get an early morning flush into a massive buy the dip, kind of rip scenario tomorrow. Really wouldn't shock me. I honestly would not be surprised if we get a massive flush in the morning and then it just pretty much rockets for the rest of the day. And we end up closing above 225. And again, the way I look at it roughly is if Tesla can close this week above about 225, not to perfection, but somewhere around 225, that would be ideal. If Tesla can close above 225, that's ideal. This could obviously mean that this break down back into this channel was a bear trap, and we close back above it, and that could be a bullish reversal coming up for starting next week. Honestly, that would not surprise me whatsoever. So keep that in mind. Now, obviously the caveat here, the risk potentially here is the fact that the weekly stochastic has officially flipped bearish, so momentum is definitely slowing down. So keep that in mind. There's a bit of a risk there for sure. So you definitely want to, watch for that carefully, right? It's not all, roses and daisies and whatnot, right? There is definitely some risk here involved. So, be careful with that. Take it as you will. But that's kind of the main way I'm looking at it, right? In terms of options flow, honestly, wasn't looking at options flow too much today, right? I mean, Tesla nowhere to be found. I guess here 12.4 confirmed a bullish flow, which isn't too bad. I don't look at options flow that much. I take a look every now and then, and if I see something major, like for instance, I guess a 1.32 million call, 420 strike, but it's pretty much 2 years out. So I don't care about it too much. I think we all know long-term Tesla's going to be perfectly fine. What we really care about right now is, what's the next week, month, couple months even, what's that looking like, right? That's what we care about. At least that's what I care about. I think long-term, we all know Tesla will be most likely fine unless something catastrophic happens. But, fairly slow day in the options market today. Nothing really catching my eye super much, honestly. So yeah, this is NVIDIA. I don't know why I'm NVIDIA. I was looking at NVIDIA earlier, but options flow, again, I don't care too much about it, right? Remember, we saw all that options flow for, what is that, a September 20th or whatever it was, like 300 strike or something like that before earnings, and we just flushed. So again, that's why I personally don't use options flow religiously. Some people pretty much trade strictly off options flow. I like to trade off of patterns, levels, technicals, trends, if you will. That's how I trade. Options flow is just kind of a supplement to it. So just thought I'd mention that. That's just my personal trading style. Doesn't mean it's wrong to do it. Some people do it very successfully, just not me personally. But yeah, anyway, that's I'm kind of blabbling about right now. But again, ultimately, like I said, the grander picture still has a very real possibility of being this massive cup and handle pattern. We're currently in the handle pattern. I do want to see one more flush, and I think if we see that flush tomorrow morning, I'll be buying it personally. If we see 205 tomorrow, I will be buying it. I don't know if we'll see 205 tomorrow. That's pretty decent flush. I mean, what percent drop is that? Let's say if we drop to 205, let's say tomorrow, we're already down about 1% pre-market. But let's say if we do drop to 205 tomorrow, that will be about a 6% drop. That's I don't know about that. That's pretty damn serious. But if we do get a drop like that tomorrow, I absolutely will be buying that dip. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you for today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how tomorrow closes. Pretty important day to see how it closes and how the weekly candles look like if you break one of these ranges. But again, if you want to take one thing away from this video, short term at least, wait for this range to break in that respective direction. We most likely move about 10 points roughly in that respective direction. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.